By the time you all are seeing this, Creative Assembly will have released their little blog post about 5.3, which is going to include a few things relevant to this replay. Nothing exactly for the Greenskins, but some stuff in preparation for the DLC with Greenskins, Ogres, and Corn. And certainly something for the Vampire Counts, some Graveguard with Halberds. Of course, this is a replay from before the patch, so yeah, I don't actually know when the patch is coming out, but that's all being said. Yeah, here we are with Vampire Counts versus Greenskins. Slade X, the legend himself, going to be leading the way. He's got Dancing Wurzag here on foot with 4 trolls, just regular old trolls. Very aggressive choice with a couple of air boys. He's got Bob here to give everyone immune to psychology with his little Rabble Rouse AoE. The Biggin Rogue Idol and some Night Goblin Fanatics, including the 8-peak loons spread all over the field here. Opposing them is a few dread columns of zombies. We've got Von Karstein, Vampire Lord, some spears, a Mortis Engine, double Necromancer, no Corpse Cart, just regular Necromancer, and a couple of Blood Knights with the Königstein Stalkers and the Sternsman in the rear. So, yeah, very traditional kind of Vampire Counts build. They're going to be relying on that Mortis Engine. Get some work done. Definitely want to keep it away from the Biggin as much as they can, and anything else that'll be able to do high burst to it, which is not a lot in this Greenskins build. Well, I say not a lot. A lot of the burst damage is going to come from the AoE of these Fanatics, and they need to be used well in order for the Greenskins to really have a chance. Here, right now, the Archers dumping some arrows into the Karstein Lord as he drops a quick cheeky charge onto the Biggin. Drops some zombies to support himself as well. He's going to use his buffs and basically come out in a wash, especially due to the arrows peppering him. Not necessarily... Well, he did a pretty good amount of value damage there that the Greenskins can't necessarily heal, but nothing too crazy. Does lose some of the uptime, that sort of anti-heroes as well. Gets miscasted by Wurzag's Revenge and kind of explodes as he casts that upgraded Flock of Doom. See the Blood Knights also kind of lurking here. Slade is gonna split his forces here and maneuver some trolls and some fanatics over to these Blood Knights. Maneuver some other trolls to kind of block this area here along with Bob and Wurzag. But yeah, the Blood Knights here getting countercharged by the trolls. Definitely not ideal. See the fanatics come through as well momentarily as the Biggin fights. Maybe. Yeah, a little breath attack there. In the back, going to get unleashed on the Arrow Boys. Will definitely do some pretty solid damage. And yeah, the Fanatics had to come ripping through here, right? There they are. So between them, the Biggin, the Trolls, these 2 units of Blood Knights just get absolutely struck down while achieving relatively little value in and of themselves. We'll see if the Vampires can perhaps recover a few of them. Maybe run them back by the Mortis Engine, get some passive heals going on. Wurzag overextends a little bit here. Is going to get hit by the Karstein Lord in melee, which is certainly not ideal. He is quite a squishy character after all, but that is going to result in the Karstein Lord also taking a few big errors in response. Effigy to get going to be used to save Wurzag here, bail himself out of trouble, and freeze the Karstein Lord in place. You can see the zombie summon trying to continue trapping Wurzag in, so once that wears off, the Karstein Lord can once again drop down. Try and charge him down. Looks like it actually hard lands there. Not sure what's going on, but meanwhile, a little brain burst from Wurzag. Going to detonate quite a few skeletons and zombies in that big melee blob over there. But Wurzag doesn't really have too much to protect right now. A lot of the trolls being allocated for other fights. Definitely could swing one up and around here to try and give some massive body blocking for Wurzag, but Foot of Gork as well. Gonna get a nice hit there. Mostly zombies and skeletons, but still pretty decent value overall, and want to just use the value before Wurzag gets killed. Another beautiful counter Blood Knight Fanatics cast here as the Night Goblins and the Trolls work against the Blood Knights. Getting some really solid damage there. Wow, those Fanatics went a long way, even impacted the rear of the Greenskins line, cutting through, hitting those skeletons. So quite a long cast on said Fanatics. Another Brain Burster there as well, so AoE damage definitely the order of the day from Slade as he tries to use his Arrow Boys against these more higher value targets. The Von Karstein Lord, though, continuing to respond with Flocks of Doom, Breath Attacks, Zombie Summons, a hard knock life for the Orc Air Boys, so they try and get loose to be able to fire in. Warzag once again in trouble, doesn't have an effigy to get off of cooldown, I would imagine, so I'd have to throw in these mangy marauders here, who, to be honest, really hadn't been doing that much of anything. Getting a tiny bit of value here, but yeah, I've been pretty vocal recently about how I think Greenskin Skirmish Cavalry is pretty poor. Hopefully they'll see some buffs with the DLC. They did mention also in the 5.3 blog post some multiplayer updates. It didn't go too far into specifics. There were like a few specific bullet points that I can't remember off the top of my head. Nothing overly too crazy. But yeah, another nice foot of Gork there, just blasting that blob of undead scum. Rotting bodies exploding under the mighty green foot of Gork. Absolutely glorious. And the big and rogue idol also sacrificing some more health for ammo, I believe, here. Getting some more opportunities to throw rocks. It is, of course, Conquest, and the sneaky goblins are going to be capping that objective, making sure that the vampire counts can't continue fighting it up. As it currently stands, without any fixes, Conquest is... feels like vampire counts would actually be pretty good at just kind of holding the point and just winning through sheer attrition. But we'll see here. Another Fanatics cast on order there. Came through another Brain Burst. This unit hasn't used any of its casts, so they are still fully operational and ready to unleash the mad Fanatics. Warzag did manage to get free of the Karstein Lord, who is going to also heal himself back up. Getting pretty close to his healing cap. Air Boys have managed to hang around and continue dealing kind of some passive damage to him. But the trolls there getting bogged down by zombies, typical vampire count things. Let's see if the Greenskins leadership can hold up right now. Bob is somewhat suffering in that he is pretty isolated here. My Goblin Fanatics just kind of holding the objective for now, but they could definitely move up and start to use their AoE damage here as well. Another Brain Burst there as the Biggin moving in against the remaining Blood Knights, who somehow survived this whole time, managed to claw back a bit of value there. A brutal charge onto those trolls in particular, as they eat some of the damage that would have gone into the Biggin otherwise. Biggin getting some big slow attacks in here. Oop, that's pretty painful when it nopes out of an animation like that, considering how long the animations do take to play out, but at least getting some hits, and we do see the unleashing of the next Fanatics here as that unit gets charged down by multiple stuff. The Mortis Engine itself also kind of a chariot in melee, does a little bit of charge damage, and then the absolute horde of undead following up. That is Halloween sight if I ever saw one. Hexenacht soon upon us, of course. The Warhammer equivalent of Halloween. Definitely going to be a good time. But yeah, looks like the undead, by countercharging back in, will seize control of that victory objective location. Warzag still alive, still hanging around with a few trolls and air boys here. Van Karstein Vampire Lord is fully healed, but I mean, the Biggin is going to be too slow really to stay with the Mortis Engine. It's fast enough that it can consistently get away. Slade really needs to have the Biggin here to at least threaten the Mortis Engine and kind of fight in this blob as much as it can. But might be too little too late, especially as the Karstein Lord tries to dive Warzag once more. We've got Bob in the house. He's on foot, but could run in here and perhaps get some assistance going. Rogue Idol also like trips and falls on the way in on some zombies. Very typical behavior. But will do some extreme damage if it can get in combat. Certainly is enough to body block for Warzag and get him out of trouble once more, but all of this is distracting this melee engagement, so these trolls just kind of getting eaten alive that had been sent in there without much support. So let's fast forward a little bit through this late game as the dragon continues to try and take chunks out of Warzag wherever it can. Yeah, Warzag going to get into combat here, and another brutal unleashing of Fanatics. And that will pretty much do in the Königstein Stalkers. The Sternsmen also at their healing cap, not really feeling too comfortable with this situation, but Warzag likewise getting absolutely taken down here. Might be the final charge as the Karstein Lord comes in with his Charmed Shield active. That is going to tear out pretty much all supporting units nearby. Comes down to basically just Bob and a handful of trolls and a few goblins too. must be said. Biggin trying to punch out the Mortis engine, although his attack's getting distracted going into like the Necromancer and other things here, which is definitely unfortunate. One downside of these big, slow single entities is if their attacks get mistargeted, it is pretty painful. Like 1 or 2 swipes and he could end this Mortis engine. Well, about 5 swipes-ish. But those swipes take quite a long time to do it. And he does get a big old hit right there. But not before Warzag is long done. The objective also being controlled by the vampire counts means that even in this late game grind, things are not going to be in Slade's favor, but nonetheless, we'll persevere, try and hold out as long as he can. The Biggin actually getting some pretty big hits in, almost able to. If he had gotten a little bit luckier on RNG, could have perhaps actually taken out the Karstein Lord, which would have probably caused enough army losses, maybe to finish off the Undead for the victory ticket. Victory, well, for lack of a better term, for the vampire counts, which is what ends up transpiring. Definitely, Conquest needs a higher victory ticket limit or some kind of contest mechanic to actually let those late game scenarios play out. Like I said, very likely the vampire counts are able to win, but technically the RNG could favor the big idol, the big and rogue idol significantly and allow it to carry that late game engagement. Definitely tough to say, but very, very close game at the end of the day. Slade, I mean, you'd expect inflated healing values, especially with a lot of passive healing in this particular build between the Mortis engine and some regenerating units. But all value spread all the way around, especially 156 kills, 1,500 value, 17,000, basically 18,000 total damage dealt by 1 unit of Fanatics. Absolutely insane. The other ones did respectable amounts of damage as well, definitely paying for themselves. Orc Air Boys also a nice contribution here. Even the Trolls get some nice grind value, a couple of them at least. Mangy Marauders end up getting probably more value in melee than they did actually at range, which is kind of hilarious. But yeah, Biggin also 4,000 damage value, almost 30,000 total damage dealt, 202 kills. Absolute menace to vampire counts. Although Graveguard with Halberds will probably change the dynamics of some matchups where they suffered against large single entities. It will help a bit. I mean, Halberd infantry can be sometimes a little bit hit or miss. We'll have to see exactly where the stats come in when the patch comes out, but certainly should be a good time for Vampire Counts players to suffer less against large armored monsters, which pretty much have been the bane of Vampire Counts since the beginning in most cases. But yeah, Mortis Engine here, classic Mortis Engine game, 3,000 damage value on that. Without a great way of shutting it down, Slade definitely suffered the effects of it, and then basically everything else in the Vampire Counts build just kind of dies. Yeah, without really doing too much. Like 1 unit of Blood Knights gets close to paying for itself. Cernsmen do okay. Yeah, not really paying for themselves, but everything else just sacrifices so the 2 power pieces can perform, which is very, I feel, appropriate to Vampire Counts playstyle. So love that. Love this game. Love you all. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button. Every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.